If you don't see any roots, don't repot it. It's that simple. Hello everyone, I'm Adina from plantsbutbetter, and I'm super happy you clicked on this video because you want to know more about this beautiful plant, Sansevieria Fernwood, and today we'll be discussing every detail that you need to know. This plant is super easy care. We will give it on our care meter a 9 out of 10 because maybe a 10 out of 10 will be too biased. It's a very adaptable plant and very beginner friendly, or if you're a traveler and you don't have much time to take care of it, you can definitely go for this plant. What about lighting? Where should you place your Sansevieria Fernwood? It's great if you can provide bright and direct light. As you can see, this one right here grew quite tall because of it. It can tolerate medium light as well. Don't leave it in low light though, because even though these plants in general, Sansevierias in general, have a reputation of growing in low light, that couldn't be more far from the truth. Plants in low light don't grow, don't thrive. They actually die very slowly. So if you don't see changes rapidly, that doesn't mean the plant is not affected. But yeah, that's the end of my rant, so please give it bright and direct light. If you don't have enough light in your home, you can definitely help them with grow lights. I tried that as well, and it still grows, so that's good news. Good, what about watering? How often should you water your plant? With most Sansevierias, the best way to do it is to wait until the substrate is completely dry. So I check with the finger test if the substrate is dry, and only when it's completely dry, you have to water it. For reference, the smaller pots, I water them maybe once every 2 weeks during summer, and this one once every 3 weeks or something. And in the winter time, I tone it down to once a month, maybe even less. But that depends on your home conditions. If the winter is really harsh and the temperatures are quite low, you have to water way less than in the summer. What about temperature? As most Sansevierias, this one prefers average temperatures. So something around 18 to 26 degrees Celsius is good enough. Whatever you do, please don't let it drop below 15 degrees unless you know how to train your plants. Most plants that are used to be indoors won't tolerate cold temperatures for a long period of time. They will get mushy and they will just die. What about humidity? This plant tolerates moderate to low humidity, so something around 40 to 60% is great. You don't need to mist it, you don't need a humidifier. It will actually do more harm than good. So just leave it alone. I mean, your average home humidity should be fine. Moving on to fertilizing. How often should you feed your plant? I fertilize my Sansevieria once a month during growing season, and in the winter I usually stop. However, if you still see that your Sansevieria is growing, you can still fertilize it, but please use a more diluted solution and a bit less often, maybe once every 2 months during colder periods of time. I use a balanced NPK ratio of 10-10-10 or 20-20-20, but almost whatever you have in your home is good enough for this plant. It's very reliable. Now let's move on to substrate. The best mix that you can use for your Sansevieria Fernwood is a very lightweight mix that helps the water drain out really fast. So for example, I use 1 part cacti soil with 1 part perlite and 1 part coco coir. Oh, and I see some pine barks in here as well. It's optional, you can definitely add those. It will very much help with the drainage, but if you don't have them, it's no problem. Please don't use just regular potting soil because that one is usually pretty heavy on the roots. And don't use just peat moss because it's too acidic and those pH levels will not be well tolerated by this plant. What about plastic versus terracotta? For the majority of Sansevierias, you can go with terracotta no problem because it helps excess water evaporate faster, and it's great for these plants that don't need a lot of water to survive. I have mine in plastic because it's more convenient for me, but I definitely grew them in terracotta in the past and they did excellent, so you can go for that as well. How about repotting when it's time to move out? As it is the case with any Sansevieria, with this one you need to repot it when it's extremely necessary. I mean when the roots are coming out of the drainage holes. If you don't see any roots, don't repot it. It's that simple. Sansevieria likes to have crowded roots, so there is no need to rush in your repotting. Moving on to propagation. The best way to propagate this plant is by division, so you just wait until new growth develops and is strong enough to remove it from the mother plant. You can place it into water and wait for new roots to grow, or you can put it directly into soil. I had more success with water, so I'm gonna stick with that, but it's good to know that you can try directly into soil as well. What about pests? Those tiny annoying little things. I think I'm lucky because I never had a problem with Sansevieria Fernwood. However, the most common pests that I could think of is scale or mealybugs. The best solution is prevention, so it's great if you can inspect the plant every time you water it. That's how you can spot any problem in time and you can treat them right away. And the last thing you need to know about Sansevieria Fernwood is if it's toxic or not. And unfortunately, it is not pet friendly, so I advise to keep it away from any curious pet. Well, we reached the end of our video. And if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. And until next time, take care of yourself and your plants.